recently there was the both the core update from Google as well as the Google leak that kind of shone a light behind the curtain, and we got a lot of insight into some of the things we kind of knew just from day in and day out work, but it was it was proven through the leak. So Chris, could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, and they're still, dissecting this 2,500 page document. So there's a lot to go through. The one thing that I want to make sure everyone's aware of, even though this is a leak and there's some good stuff in this, there's no weighting behind it. So even though there's an item in here that we kind of knew about, or an item that we didn't know about, we don't know how much weight it has in the algorithm. So that's and there's a lot of analysis going on right now with it, but that's something to keep in mind. But one of the things that I'd have to say is my biggest takeaway, and there's a lot of the biggest thing is it's an API leak, okay? So it's very technical. And so it shows you the fields and the naming convention that they use. And so you have to kind of reverse engineer this naming convention to understand what kind of key points they're looking at. But a lot of the naming conventions are centered around events and engagement metrics of your website. So one of the things that I've said for years that I feel a little validation on right now is that every website has a quality score. And you'll hear this term in with PPC, like Google has a quality score. It's baked into the back end. So every PPC person out there knows what quality score is, and it's the quality score of the page and how relevant it is to the keywords that you're showing ads on. And it just made sense to me that if Google has a quality score for a landing page and how relevant it is to the key term, then surely they have a quality score for your website, because it's more than a landing page, but it's a lot of landing pages put together. So what you get into was a lot of the naming conventions and the APIs, calls that they have within this document is you see the things that they're focusing on. And so a lot of it centers around the website, how much time people spend on the site, the quality score of the site, because not either all of these items build into a score. It's not like they look at this item and they judge your site based on this one item. It's more that they have one score and all these items go into that. And so the takeaway with that is you can't just look at one page. If you want to rank for breast augmentation, right? You can't just look at how good that page is. That's the starting point, but you've got to look at the website as a whole to see if you've got a good quality content everywhere. And you can't just focus on one page or one section of your website. The whole thing has got to be good, from page speed to schema to having a topical depth and not just having one page devoted to a subject matter. So it kind of gives validation to a lot of the things that we were thinking. And this isn't just my thinking. There's other industry experts that were thinking this as well. But you have to look at your whole website holistically from an SEO perspective, and not just a single page.
It's really good insight. And I think one of the other things was that they kind of admitted that they're not as good at telling quality content versus non-quality content as everybody thinks they are.
And that actually came out of the antitrust case, which is just as good as the leaks as far as I'm concerned. So if you're just looking at the leak document, really that antitrust is pretty alarming, actually. Some of the things that have come out. I mean, they've flat out admitted to adding algorithm tweaks to their PPC algorithm that shields up the price artificially. So I don't know how that's going to come out, but they've actually admitted that. So that's disappointing. Now, from an SEO perspective, some of the things that they're saying, now, again, you got to kind of have to take this at face value, because this is an antitrust lawsuit. So what they're saying may be more court specific than reality, right? Mm-hmm. And they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth as far as Google is concerned. So they tell you what they wanted. They tell you they're good at something, but they may not be as good as they like to think. But one of the things that came out was they admitted or confessed that they don't know the relevancy of a document as well as they think they do. And document here is a web page. So, we think they really have a good understanding and can tell what a web page is about. And here Google is saying to the DOJ that they really don't. So now, whether that's, again, is that a play to kind of, is that a strategy that they're using? Probably, but there's probably some truth to it as well. So the thing, what's the takeaway there? Well, I've heard this from clients before where they say, well, Google knows what my website is. They know I'm a doctor. They know I'm a lawyer. They know what this page is about. And to a certain extent, I'd say you're right. But when you have millions of documents that are touting the same thing, then how your data is marked up, how your words are marked up, and is it fast? Do you have schema that tells Google what this really is? This is my name, address, and phone number. There's schema that you can wrap that name, address, and phone number in. And as long as that matches your Google business profile, then that shows trust. Google knows that when people go to your address, it's going to be the right address. So why wouldn't we want to help them out with this? And so there's a lot of things you can do to the back end of your website. Schema is one of them that really marks it up and says what this page is actually about. And if you're not using some of this markup, then you're just leaving equity on the table. Because if your competitor's using it, then Google trusts that site more. So now we're back to that quality score of a website, right? So if Google doesn't trust your site, in other words, it doesn't know 100% what it's about, in this other website, it feels it has a better understanding of what it's about, and it has more topical depth, it has more different types of content. Now we're starting to see kind of the mentality that Google has with their algorithm tweaks. And so this really starts making an ecosystem that you can understand better where the algorithm's going, not just where it's at today.
I got a quick question. I know you like education and you're very transparent about that. Is there a place that a plastic surgeon can go to find out what their quality score is?
No, there is not. That's the whole thing. I wish there was, and with their PPC campaigns, you can. It's a number inside of the dashboard, but they don't want you to know because, and I would think they would, right, Candace? I agree with you.
Yeah,
It just
like,
makes sense.
yeah.
We're
If
so
they-
competitive. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we would be helping them out.
There are
Exactly.
third-party tools though that offer domain authority, but I think that's a bit different, right, Chris?
Yeah, that just really kind of identifies the quality of the links pointing to your website. That's your online authority. It's who's linking to you and how authoritative they are and how relevant they are to your niche. So that's the authority of a website, and that's a little bit different. But the quality score of a website, I don't think Google will ever release that, because once you have a score, then you can take multiple. You can do a whole data set of websites and say, okay, reverse engineer, especially with AI now, here's all these scores, here's all these websites, go analyze all these metrics on this website across the board and come up with, the things that they're doing different. And so Google's very protective of that algorithm. So I don't think you'll ever see a score. And matter of fact, they used to have what was called, this is going way back, 2011. They had a score called PageRank, and it used to have this toolbar at the top of your browser, and it would tell you the page rank of the website. Now that was more related to links, not quality score, but at least then you had some kind of numerical reference with which to judge your website versus somebody else's. They took that away. And matter of fact, they say that, and again, this is where they talk out of both sides of their mouth, they say that PageRank is dead. Others have come out and said, no, it's still being used in the algorithm, but we're not advertising, we're not letting the user see what the page rank is. So you have to kind of read between the lines, anything that Google publishes.